people. Welcome to the first episode of Gaming for Soup. I'm Sam. This is my dad, JJ. We're going to be talking
Hello.
about mostly gaming, video gaming, board gaming. Might also talk about whatever nerd stuff we feel like. Maybe something Trek related. Maybe something pop culture in general. What Marvel movie coming out? We with a couple topics we're going to cover today. And Dad, what's the first topic you want?
I think we should jump into your first topic today, and we should talk about the new Google streaming platform called Stadia.
Oh, so you went and Googled it because like 10 minutes ago you had no idea what I was talking about when
And
I said we
now
want to
I'm
talk
like a
about the Stadia.
Stadia expert. As a vaunted IT professional, I
Okay.
am curious about the
See,
technology that
because
they're
I've
using
heard from
for
other
this.
IT professionals that IT professionals don't actually know how to fix problems. They're just better at Googling than non-IT professionals.
Okay, just first of all, there's no reason to remember useless facts when Google will remember them for you. That's just
Guys,
silliness.
I'm hearing you're parroting that I'm correct, but you're not saying it in the way that I would prefer you were. All right.
Second of all,
So Google Stadia. Do you understand what they are promising? What
what
they're
they're
trying to sell
saying
you?
is they're going to be delivering full 4K, 60 frames per second interactive content from a cloud service to your desktop with a streaming experience that's going to be somewhat comparable to what you would do if you were
It's
playing the game on your local
what
machine.
they're saying is that they can run Doom Eternal, the game, at 4K at 60 frames per second to anything if your internet's good enough. And I don't think it's like absurd levels of internet. I believe it's like 25. I don't remember, I don't know the measurement unit, but it's not unreasonable internet for anybody that pays for a little better plan in even a suburb. And what it does is it streams to any screen. You could do it on your phone, you could do it on a tablet, you could do it Chromecast it to your TV if you want to. And then your controller that they sell to you is also connected to the Wi-Fi, and they send it back toward the server, whoever is actually playing the game for.
Yeah, but I guess there's a lot of conditional caveats that are going to go into that
Yeah,
experience, right? Because we're always interested in these same kind of solutions at work, right? Because you can buy a really expensive workstation for a high-end scientist or engineer that's going to sit there, or you can have a cloud solution that allows you to allocate
and
capacity
this is something that
and deliver an application to a desktop. That's essentially what they're doing. In this case, the application they're delivering to a desktop is just a video game,
I
right? Instead
remember
of
my
something for
school
work.
my school looked at getting the Chromebooks or the Chrome those little squares they would use that functioned as computer cloud. Is this something similar? I
Well,
think a lot of workspaces.
what you need is a streaming client because what you're doing is, I think, some type of screen scraping technology. So it's not sending you everything, it's just sending you the transitions that are occurring in the screen. And then you're not sending back everything, you're just sending mouse and keyboard
Just
commands,
inputs for
which
your
should be
controller.
compact, right? So that way, like, the interactivity between your feeds and your competitors' feeds is just delivering that keyboard and mouse input data up there. Everything's being resolved by a server process and it's delivering the experience back to you.
See, I would be afraid of just if it just somebody was like, "We'll stream it to you." I would be like, "I'd rather I had it with me so I could offline play if I wanted my internet." But the other functionality that they offer is actually really enticing to me, which is that
So,
they want to implement it with their YouTube service so that if you're watching a trailer for a game, you can click. They will have a play now button. You click it and you can start playing the game right there because they're streaming it to you, right? And then also they're trying to compete with Twitch in a sense that you will have a little button on a YouTube stream that will say play with the streamer, and you can click it, and it like the streamer can set up games that viewers can join in by clicking this button, and then now they're instantly playing with whoever they're watching via
well, I mean, that's pretty
connection.
compelling stuff, right? I mean,
Yeah.
especially if you're a high-end
Uh,
Twitch
I
streamer.
believe Micah would like us to know that this is a shit, Micah. We are under the family friendly tag right now. I would like you to be a little nicer about
Oh,
your.
are we getting are we getting
That's just
comments?
Micah. I have one comment from Invisiturtle. This is shit. So this is what we've got going for us.
I feel like that hurts my feelings.
It also hurts my feelings. We're gonna be playing. He's not viewing anymore, so he probably doesn't even hear. I think he just wanted to get that in and then bounce.
Well, that's
It's
unfortunate.
just a bully move. All right, so I've lost my train of thought after getting bullied. No, here we go. You know what hurts my feelings? He said, I assume not being included in the stream, if I had to guess. He says I am viewing. Yeah, see, this is what I'm telling you. With the delay, I'm essentially talking to someone from the past.
Okay.
So we'll
But
check in with him in a minute. So
so so when you watch Gaming for Soup or whatever we're calling ourselves at the moment, you're not only getting informative information about new gaming platforms, you're also experiencing time travel in a very finite
yeah,
way.
you're
It's
you're
not
you're
no.
experiencing time travel in the form of my best man from my wedding bullying me from the past, cyberbullying me. Says what hurts his feelings is not being included in the stream, sure, but mostly the fact that we're not playing the division right now.
And I'm going to agree with Micah. It's we do need to play the division.
Okay, but we're trying to
Uh,
get in a quick stream before I go to the dentist later. So
quick
back,
streaming, Dennis,
is
and
there
then
anything?
and
Where were you on the Stadia and their implementation with the streaming
so
services?
I've got questions, right? I mean, so how are they developing these games? So if I'm playing the game on my computer with a 32-inch HD monitor, I don't have 4K right now. How is that experience going to contrast to if I'm playing it on my Samsung S10 phone, which I don't have, but it would be cool if I actually had one. Is it going to scale in the same proportions so that certain parts of the interface become unusable? Or
Yes,
is the game going to
yeah.
detect the size of the device that it's streaming to
I don't
and
think it will.
scale the user experience to fit?
That might be way down the road. I think at the beginning they're just gonna put the picture that you would see, like let's say you're playing Assassin's Creed, whatever you would see if you had it on your TV playing on your Xbox. They're just gonna take that, copy pasta onto a smaller screen. So I think any small dialogue or small details will be missed if you're.
Yeah, I mean that's possible, but I mean these days, at least in the web world, you've got a lot of website developers who understand how to do scalable content. So I'm thinking,
But we're talking about
people
triple
that
A games.
yeah, no, but AAA titles, when they took Fortnite and they put it on the
Yeah,
uh
Micah, this is the Google.
yeah, when they took Fortnite and they put it on the Switch and then they put it on your phone, it was not the same Fortnite you got when you were playing on a
But
full PC
the reason they
install.
did that differently is because the Switch and the phone were not as powerful as a computer. So the phone one especially is actually way scaled back so that your phone can handle playing for it. So I don't think
Well,
they're going to run into the same issue here because all they're doing is giving you the picture onto your phone. Your phone's not doing any leg lift.
but you got to be doing so. Even think about something like that. Let's say you're playing a shooter. Like what were you? What was the game that you mentioned? You referenced Doom, I think, right? As
Doom,
their
yeah.
first. Yeah, they mentioned something about that as their go live game or something. Well, if you're going to play Doom on your computer, completely different experience from playing Doom on your phone because you don't have a controller, you don't have a mouse and a keyboard. So you have to be able to interact with the game through the touch screen in a different way than you would interact with it through the computer. So the game's going to have some scalability to deliver to those platforms, right?
Definitely.
They, I don't know how they're going to solve that problem, but it's
I don't.
interesting.
I, I'm convinced that's not their first priority. I'm convinced they need to quiet everyone's doubts about how well it would run to just your computer monitor. Like, because the way when everyone hears this, what they're imagining and what they want is they want Netflix for video games. Is that you can pick something, stream it to your computer, like you pay $10 a month, X dollars a month, and then bam, you're playing whatever AAA games you want at the moment. You're just like, I want to try this one. Bam, I'm playing Forza.
Yeah,
Bam, I'm
I
playing
get that. I
Doom.
completely get that. But then what's I don't know, what is that going to do with like VR, right? Because I'm sitting here going, I want VR to
Okay,
come of age. I want the Oculus.
this is not a VR console. You are completely
Okay,
changing the
okay.
subject.
The evolution of games has to include VR. If Micah were on the stream, he would agree with me right now. You know I'm right.
He's a big fan of VR. I
He's
don't
a
know if he would
big
agree, but I think there's room for games that aren't VR in the future because not everyone can even play VR. They might have like motion sickness. type of games where they.
Yeah, okay, but we're not going to go back to that Sea of Thieves unfortunate
Hey,
incident that
Micah's
I
chat is
had.
appearing on the stream. He says, "Dad, I am on the stream." Just for reference, should we just have everyone call you Dad via the internet? Because that's what everyone else calls you in
Did I
person.
just adopt the entire
Are you?
internet? I
You
think it's just Micah right
you're.
now, right?
I
I'm just
think you're the
adopting
father of the
Micah.
internet. I think you have. As I literally bring my Oculus back home and let. He says he will bring the Oculus back and let you play it.
I know,
Want?
that's cool. Well, I'm happy if he comes on the stream.
No, he just want. He's saying if you want to, he will bring you his Oculus for you to play.
Oh, I love to play the Oculus.
Yes.
Yes, I
Okay.
am
That.
down to play the Oculus.
Okay. So I think we've said we're not super knowledgeable about the Stadia. They haven't given out too many details now. Is there any closing thoughts you want to say?
Well, okay, so it's like every other platform out there, right?
Yeah,
You have to get developers to want to develop content for your platform, whether you're a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One or a PC or whatever or a Switch or whatever you're delivering content. Somebody's got to build the content.
yeah.
In order for them to do that, there has to be a compelling audience.
Closing thoughts from Micah. Thanks for the. All right.
Okay.
So what is
I'm unclear what's happening right now, but
do we want to jump into
okay.
your first topic of discussion?
We can, sure, because my topics are always amazing. I actually liked your topics way better than mine, but um, I just mainly wanted to have the opportunity to rant like anyone in the world would care about what's coming, what's become of video game developers, what I've been looking for in my next big game, and what I feel like have been these consistent swing and a miss that are
I feel
coming from these AAA
I
titles.
sense that this is specifically targeted at Anthem, who showed some desire in playing previously.
Anthem, Destiny 2,
Destiny 2. Well,
original
those
Destiny.
those are extremely similar games. So I feel like ever since the first Destiny was announced, when you heard it was like a Halo version of WoW, you were already very interested in the idea. That was
Okay,
you
so
sounded like something new and interesting.
I'm almost 10 years clean and sober from World of Warcraft. Big deal. I'm finally off the drug. But just like any good drug addict, I'm looking for a new drug. I really think it's going to be something in the VR space that involves that persistent world kind of experience that WoW did, and I think a shooter would be ideal. But what bothers me, I kept trying to figure out why I didn't like these games, and we've talked about a lot that what's holding me back is there's not an open world feel. Because even though World of Warcraft had its same limitations about not delivering an open world feel, in other words, it had boundaries. But for some reason, those boundaries didn't feel as bad. And I've been trying to think about what it might be. And I'm going to throw this out here so you can criticize it. I think it's a question of, and I don't want a lot of sarcastic comments coming from the chat on the stream, but I
He's
think it's a
he's
question
I think
of what's that?
I was gonna say I think Micah has some actually good input. There actually were there were a lot of good AAA releases. I think what you're focusing on is in the specific genre it has continually let you down and
I'm looking for
shooter
the next
futuristic
big
RPG.
MMO RPG,
Yeah,
and I was thinking about why Destiny 2 and why I think Anthem aren't going to do it for me. And it's this idea of length versus width, right? For
yeah.
some reason, they make these longer, narrower environments that give me the impression of being boxed in. And I thought back to a game that I played way too much of, which was Battlefield Bad Company. And it did exactly the
You're
same
still
thing.
saying Battlefield 2. You did this in our best games list. Did not
I
play Bad
said I
Company.
said Bad Company.
No, you said Bad Company 2, and that's not the game you meant to say. You played a lot
I
of Battlefield
played I
2.
played Battlefield 2, but I also played Battlefield 2 Bad Company.
The one.
And there
So
was
you're right now you're talking about the game with the destructible environments. That's
that
the
is
one.
correct.
Okay.
That's the one I'm
All right.
talking
So we're
about.
on the same page.
That's Bad Company. And Bad Company had a particular map that was kind of it was a city map. We played it a lot. I can't recall the name, but it was sort of as wide as it was long. And even
Yeah.
though if you went out of the map, you had negative consequences that would come from that. Just like you couldn't maybe get out of a map in Destiny 2, it never felt confining. It always, and it was that sense of, two-dimensional mobility or three-dimensional mobility that made it worth playing. I'm trying to
It's
see
just
what I'm
what Micah's
sarcasm.
putting. It's just putting a little.
Random emotes on the
So
screen. And
here's
so
what I think missing is that also the scale of World of Warcraft's world, even if there were areas that may have been thin, like dungeons that were inside, had a lot of long, narrow passageways.
they
The
did.
world
Yeah, the instance
itself
content
was
did.
just gigantic, even from launch.
Hmm.
Like just the amount of distance you could just walk to get from one place to the other was absurd. Just and you could render everything around you like outside of say Ironforge. The area was just a huge mountainous like ice area and everything. It wasn't pretty. I don't know how it compares to the graphics of his time, but I feel like because we've gone away from that cartoony aesthetic and gotten to where Anthem looks like the most realistic version of you being Iron Man it could, with each little thruster firing separately and everything. It's putting so much work on your computer that they end up with these loading screens between every area. So then they don't want to create too many areas. I feel like this might be what is shrinking it more than them just not wanting to have a big open. I think they just want to have the coolest, sexiest, sleekest like aesthetic, and that is actually holding them back from creating the big open.
Yeah, I could buy that. I think that in a way, that's what helped World of Warcraft for me is that it wasn't trying to be photorealistic, that it was trying to be animated and sort of cartoony. And so it was okay that it felt incomplete because it wasn't trying to feel complete. But then when you see something that's trying to look, I don't want to say photorealistic, but at least more accurate, then you tend to judge it in that vein, right? And then yeah, I don't know. I don't have the answer for it. Obviously, as you know, this is a topic that has been an ongoing level of frustration for me. Sorry, my headphones are kind of
Yeah,
jacked up a little bit, but it's just been a thing that's kind of driven me crazy over and over. And I'm like, all right, ah, I'm just looking for that next big title. I like some of the AAA games. It doesn't have to be an MMO, but I'm really looking for something that's a new drug to leave behind Rocket League and go play something new. I I've been having a lot of fun playing Civilization 6. That's kind of enjoyable, but it's those big strategy games have a limited shelf life because after you've explored a number of different strategies, it starts to feel samey if you're not
yeah.
careful, right? So
Especially once you find the ones you like and kind of stick to just maybe one or two strategies
yeah,
again and again.
yeah.
Question from the
We have
peanut gallery. Not yet described yet. Why would you ever want to leave behind Rocket League? See,
I don't
that's a good
really.
question.
So the problem is, I used to have these two guys that I played Rocket League with, and every time I get onto Discord or get on a Rocket League, they're never there.
It's
And so when
actually aimed at me and Micah for.
I play alone, and it's sad, and it just hurts my feelings. And I get kind of sad
Okay,
and
stop doing
cry a
your bit.
little.
Okay, I think as far as
Oh,
sports games go, it'll be a long time before Rocket League quits being my go-to one. For like fast, quick gameplay, that's the one. Micah says he's always there. Him up
is he
specifically.
there now? Is he there right now
We're
playing
not playing
Rocket League?
Rocket League right now.
Because well, I mean, I could talk and play Rocket League at the same time.
Okay, we're
I'm
not gonna
capable
talk
of
and
doing
play
that.
Rocket League. Micah says
I feel
I'm the
like
one who doesn't exist anymore because I only play at like 4 a.m. in the morning when everybody else is on.
that
Because I'm a
Micah
mortal.
maybe he may be onto something
I think
there.
I believe that in this triangle I am the problem if I had to guess. My gaming
Okay.
hours are not what lining up with other people, but I'm gonna make it work for the. All right, so the second category that I wanted to get it into was which one of those seemed more.
Your second category that you shipped over to me. So in our script, our second category, we have two options.
Yeah.
We have, you want me to pick the one that's better?
Which one seems more appealing to you that I proposed?
Well, honestly, they're both pretty good. I'd say I'd go with games that you like that no one wants to play with you, I guess.
Okay, so this one I figured it was more of a board game problem. It's what do you mean pre-recorded? Why is he yelling at me? And now he's playing Sekiro. Okay, I think he's done watching this. Okay, so or he's probably just gonna listen to us while he plays Sekiro. The, this was more of an issue with board games in particular, because with online games, even if you can't find a friend from right here to play with you, just jump into matchmaking, and especially if they have voice chat, you can kind of find somebody to play with you. But if you want to play a board game and you find like, especially now that Sophie's got it to where she got me watching horror movies where I never was before. So I kind of gave myself a like anthology, caught myself up on all the old slasher movies I had never seen. So now I actually
Well, that sounds like a
like,
completely not productive thing
it's a
to do, but
personal
okay.
problem, but this is a topic about personal
All
problems.
right, all right, all right, all
So my
right.
personal problem is that I've seen these games that look so cool to me, like say a game about Friday the 13th. They made one a while back that
Okay.
like really went through about like one guy's going to play the slasher and it's going to be in multiple rounds and the rounds are basically describe the first three movies of a slasher where one girl will survive and the second movie she'll come back to kill the killer. It seemed really cool to me. And then I go talk to Sophie. I'm like, isn't this so cool? And she's like, no. Of course, everybody else I know is also not interested in or slashers, and it's just not the crowd I tend to run in. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to buy this game, even though it sounds like it would be fun to me. It's just I can't get anyone to play it with me. So
Okay,
I
that
think this
sounds
is a
like a
very
really specific example that you're trying to bait somebody into playing this game with
no,
you.
that's not correct. Well, I'm saying this has happened to me on multiple occasions with board gaming specifically. Because I
Okay.
think because
With
also
board
there's
gaming or video gaming? With
board
board
gaming, it
gaming.
happens to me
Okay.
way more often. That because you can play a video game by yourself. They will have computers or online opponents.
Well, I agree. It is more of a problem with board gaming, but again, Rocket League, I've played way more Rocket League by myself, or I say by myself, with people I don't know than I've ever played with people that I do know. I
But
mostly just play
imagine that
solo.
Rocket League was a board game, and you would have not played any of it.
I wouldn't
See,
have played any, yeah, I
that's
agree.
why
But
this is more of a board game.
part of the problem is that not everybody's always going to like the same thing. And so I think I learned from you, which I thought was really good advice, that if you want people to play the things that you want to play, then you've got to play the things that they want to play. But you also
Yeah,
have to make sure everybody involved has that same mentality, right?
yeah. That they're
So
like, okay, I'll play this and I won't complain, and the next time I'll get to play what I
like if you want me to beat you at Robin Hood, then you have to be willing to
okay.
beat me at Crisis, right?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, but I also run into the issue of like, because I saw the Shut Up and Sit Down guys did a new, like they said their favorite game of all time now, one of them, is this new social deduction game that came out that puts a new spin on werewolf where even the moderator has an active gameplay. But to
Hmm.
play that, you would need at least five people in a moderator, so that's six people. I can't even get four people to play a social deduction game, let
Yeah,
alone
well,
six. And
the biggest problem you have with that is social deduction games just aren't any fun.
okay, they really appeal to a certain group, but I've found that that group does not have the same availability that I do to play games. Because I know
Well,
Brandon is really
yeah.
into that kind of thing, and so is
I
Tara.
so's your sister, but I mean, it's about strategy, right? To me, I want to play a board game to be thinking and burn my brain and forget about
That's
other
see,
stuff
but
and
that's what they.
focus.
Okay, I don't want to run you down on somebody else's video, but they really like this game, and they almost sold me on it, and by saying it's not werewolf, and they said all their problems with werewolf and resistance and why they won't play it anymore, and this one completely changes it. And I'm just like, I don't know, you really gonna have to sell me on it, and I still don't think they did all the way, but they did make me want to try it. But then you run into the issue of it's like, okay, I want to try this board game. Right? Board game's
Well,
going to be at least $60, and then I have to get four people that are also willing to try it without me even being able to tell them that it's good.
what's the minimum amount you can get to
Minimum
play?
six, and they said realistically
Good.
you eight for a better.
Yeah, that's a tough ask to get that
Yeah,
many people together to play a board game. I mean, if you have a gaming group, it's one thing, but if you're just playing with a few friends, it's really hard to
I
find
th-
eight
yeah,
people.
I think for that kind of thing, I would literally have to find someone who's already playing it. Like go online, look for my area that.
Well, how complicated is it? Because when you think about what's the game that we have that we play? It's like Wits
Doing
and
a bit.
Wagers, right?
Oh, Wits and
I
Wages.
was trying. I was trying to look at the shelf over here to see if I could find the game, but
That's
it was
that's
Wits and
that's the other
Wagers.
problem is the only times that me and you would have those kind of numbers would be at like a family gathering.
Right, but that's what I'm
And when
saying.
you
If
want to
if
you want to
this
whip out
game
an
isn't
easier game.
super complicated, you could slot that game in instead of Wits and Wagers and still have you could acquire the game
But see, I'll
with the
never,
game.
I will never play Mom's Side of the Family again. It was like Werewolf. We tried to play, what was it, One Night Ultimate Werewolf with them. Every
Yeah,
time Aunt Brenda, I would be like, Aunt Brenda, you're the werewolf. She's like, you're right, and she would just flip her werewolf card over for like 3 or 4 rounds in a row. I'm like, this is
yeah.
untenable.
That could be a problem. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what
so
I'm saying. It's got to be. That's why Wits and Wagers works for that kind of stuff because it's just super simple, right? Anybody can play it. If the game has those simple mechanics, but if it's actually a good strategic game that requires you to understand some rules and mechanics,
yeah,
and you need a group of 8 people, it's
yeah,
like who would
it's
even
impossible.
develop that? It's
It's
just who's going to buy that?
Well, they were just trying to make the new version of Werewolf suck because Werewolf is aged and it does suck because they were talking about how in this one player elimination you still get a vote like
Yeah.
once you're a ghost you can still vote on who dies and because you don't know who killed you but you can still watch everyone play and be invested in it. There are characters that can even talk to the ghosts it's just based on win conditions how many people but you have any games of a similar type where you're like, man, this looks like something I would really like? Not something you already have, because unless you want to talk about one that, but just one you thought about getting, but maybe you passed on because you didn't see yourself being able.
Yeah. Well,
You
no.
bought it anyways.
Yeah. That's kind of what I did. Yeah. In fact, I mean, it sort of segues into my next topic, which is does the media that you consume, like if you listen to YouTube channels or podcasts about video games and board games, does that then motivate you to acquire more stuff to play with? And pretty
100%.
confident, yeah, it's 100%
There's
yes.
no
So you
doubt.
are what you eat, right? So um, because I was consuming content, there was this two-player trick-taking game, this card game called The Fox and the Forest, and I was like, oh, I really like a two-player trick-taking
About
game,
that one too.
and I did buy that game, yeah,
Didn't we
even
already?
though
You
I
already
don't
have
know if
Shan Tan, don't you? That not also.
Shantan's two-player game, and I may or may not have ordered a game called Claim, which is a two-player trick-taking game.
Oh my gosh, you are making poor choices.
Four life choice kind of well defined here in the acquisition disorder category. That's the problem, right? That's what I'm talking about. I I like listening to like podcasts about video games and podcasts about board games because it's cool to hear the new stuff coming out and they talk about mechanics and old stuff that I haven't seen. But then eventually it kind of seeps in your head and you're like, oh man,
And
it'd
then
be
you
really
get
cool to have
excited
that
about it
game.
too, and you go look it up,
Yeah,
and you see all those
and then
reviews
you
that are
watch
all excited
videos
about it.
on it and the reviewers yeah, it's just terrible. And so I'm getting it under control. It's a
I don't know
12-step program. I'm on step one. I've acknowledged that there is a problem.
and I have a new worse problem in that whenever they come out with a video game, especially based on an IP, I'm all over. It. Like I'm like, oh my god, yes, bring me the next Star Wars game, right? And then I'm just like, because it's Star Wars, I really want to play as those characters for some reason, and it's almost always lets me down when it's an IP based game because they're really
Yeah,
relying on it too heavily.
I what was Battlefront, the original game, when it first came out, was a really cool idea, and I really liked the game, but I think they
No,
just when they made new versions of it, they were just retreading those same concepts to some degree.
oh, they lost everything that was good from the
Really?
because they were
Okay,
looking
yeah.
for new monetizations. Me and Micah played the demo for Battlefront, not Battlefront 2, the new Battlefront, the first one.
Mhm.
We played the demo for it and we're like, this is kind of cool. There's actually something here. It's a good shooter. And then it
Yeah.
comes out and everybody says it's literally the demo with one extra map. And I'm like, okay, well, it's not $60 good. Like, that demo was not worth $60. And then on top of that, they had loot boxes, and the way that you got the characters, like say in the original game, you would get to play Darth Vader if you were doing very well, if you were getting a lot of kills, and that felt good, right? You're like, I'm doing well, I get to be Darth Vader. In this one, there would just be a little token that would always spawn in the same spot. So you would have 5 guys on your team just standing around the same spot, ready to spam click the token when it came up so they could play Vader, which is the opposite of fun.
Yeah, that's kind of lame.
And I just don't know why they didn't look at the first one and ask people, what do you like about this? I guess they wanted to make it more accessible that anybody, even if you're doing poorly, could be Vader. But I'm like, but you didn't give it out to a random player. You put it in a spot that everyone's going to stand next to. That's,
Yeah, they were just trying to create some kind of experience that ended up not being what they thought it was going to be, and
yeah,
it just
maybe in
failed.
testing it worked out better because maybe they had less players.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I don't know. There are a lot of games like, well, so Anthem is a great example, right? I really wanted to get Anthem. I really wanted to like Anthem. I know Anthem had a lot of difficulty at launch, um, a lot of really long load screens, like 2-minute load screens. Some people said once it launched, it was kind of okay, it played well, but if you were going into instance content, then somebody would get in there, and 2 minutes later, the last member of your party might arrive, and so I opted out, and I was listening to reviewers, and some people said I played it for 6 hours and I uninstalled. But it's a game that I think I would have enjoyed exploring just to see what it was like, but I didn't have anyone to play it with. It was a lot of money and it had a bad launch. And so thank you, EA, for another crappy
Or another dead launch.
encore on Battlefield 5 and everything else. EA, when it comes to first-person shooter AAA titles, in my humble opinion, is not giving us the love that we're
They're
looking for
they're
out of it.
really trying to destroy their own name. Like I don't know
Well,
what's going on.
what was really interesting is you got the pay to play Anthem, which has this sort of crappy launch, but almost what months or weeks before that, you got the free to play Apex Legends,
Apex Legend.
which had a marvelous launch, right?
That's not by EA.
It
It's
is
by the
EA.
EA
Isn't it?
made Titanfall?
They
It's by the
made
same people who did
Titanfall,
Titanfall.
yes.
Yeah. Oh wow.
So
So
when you go into Epic's game launcher, you can see is it Epic's? I think it's Epic's. Maybe I'm no, what am I thinking of? It's is it Origin or Epic's that EA runs? I can't remember which one is theirs right now. It tells you how. Uh,
all right, who made Apex Legend? People. It
so
says it's
Fortnite was
Respawn
Epic, so it's
Entertainment.
Origin, I think, right?
Origin is EA.
Well, when you go to the Origin launcher here, I'm bringing it up. If I go to my games, I've got yeah, I've got Apex Legends is from Origin, but if you want Anthem, it's also, I believe, from Origins, isn't it? Or am I saying this
It's
completely
by
wrong? Yeah,
Respawn Entertainment. I don't know.
right. But it's been released on Origin, so I can go into Origin and I can get Apex Legends for free. Or I can go into Origins and drop a crap ton of cash to play Anthem. And I'm like, well, I guess what I did. I played Apex Legends for free, and it was okay. But
I mean, we didn't. We liked, or maybe you didn't, but we saw the appeal of Apex Legends. It's very polished. Like that's why I don't understand. If it was made by EA, why did they take so long or take
well,
to
I
put
guess it
they
was
put all
published
this
by them,
money, all
right?
this like advertising into the games that are not ready. You know what I mean? Like Anthem, they've been advertising for years and it wasn't ready. And then Apex Legends, they didn't advertise at all. They just dropped it. They're like, free game today, come play it. I don't know
Yep.
if it was. It seems like maybe it's kind of like what happened with Overwatch, where they had one project they were working on and it wasn't working. They scrapped it, used whatever they had left over to create a game in an easier genre, right?
Mhm.
And just spit it out and didn't expect it to do that well and it blew up.
Well, and certainly no one would have necessarily predicted that, but Apex Legends did extremely well. It was published by Electronic Arts. Anthem, which they had to have invested a ton of money into, and I don't really know what they're doing. I haven't looked at how they're doing, but
And
I
to
don't know.
Micah is saying that the lore supposedly is that they did that because they didn't want to associate with EA. So maybe they didn't want EA to advertise their.
Who's that?
because
Apex Legends?
yeah, because
Or
they didn't want to have EA's name attached to it in the
but
advertising.
I'm saying EA was the publisher for Apex Legends. I don't know. I don't know. They're delivering it through Origins. I mean, as far as I know, they are. And so it's just like I don't know. I guess it seems like we live in the world of free to play, and the freemium
Well,
model is what everybody's going for.
well, if you want to
And
make a $60 game, make a $60 game, but make it so that it comes out as a full, complete package for $60. That's worth $60, and then if you want to add more onto it, put it in. People expect it in DLC packs of like maybe $15 with new missions and outfits and
oh
stuff.
my
But
gosh,
they
DLC, that's a
all it
whole nother topic entirely.
DLC is fine if the game you put out is already good and already has a player base that wants more.
Yeah, but when you got these vendors that are putting out like, oh, who is it? Fire Axis and who publishes Civilization 6? Is that Electronic Arts? I can't remember who. I know it's delivered on Steam. I don't remember who is published it, but there's so much DLC for that game, and they'll sell you like, oh, this expansion for like 29 bucks, or this expansion for 29 bucks. Oh, or this DLC pack for 4.99. Or I mean, if you got every bit of DLC they're pumping out for that game, you'd spend, gosh, 4 or 5 times more than what the game
Well,
costs originally
I
its
mean, but
retail.
that's not a bad thing if it's what people are paying for, right? Because let's talk about like
Well,
I think it's Truck
unless,
Simulator. They have thousands of dollars of DLC if you bought everything, but you're not going to, right? They're just
well,
offering you.
and I'm fine with that, but it's sometimes it's things that they're putting in the game that are adding to the game, and that's great. Other times it's things that they're doing to the game that's like just fixing UI behavioral problems, and you know, I don't know, I don't know.
I see Mike is making the point that $60 has been the game price for a long time,
It
so they
hasn't been
have to
20 years,
separate.
I assure you. It's been a
Yeah,
lot less than
but
that.
here's the thing. If they want to say it will cost $100, but this will be a full experience, and they like really show me everything it'll be, I'll be like, I would be okay with that if that's what it took to deliver the game they want to deliver. But if they want to deliver a piece of crap for 60 and then charge me piecemeal to try to get their money back on,
Yeah, I
that's not
agree.
what I
I
want. That's
I
why
guess
free to play, you'll get the player base for these piecemeal things, right? You have a huge player base, and then you offer them little bits across the way because they're like, well, I already like the game and I would like more of it, so now I will pay. And there's enough players to where a percentage of them will be willing to pay that money. But if you have a $60 game, you have a much smaller pool and a much less accepting group of people for having to pay more money to.
yeah, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I don't know. I just there's some games that are more notorious than others for delivering DLC. I'm not at all bothered about the freemium model where you can buy skins or
Skins.
avatars or things like that. That's pretty cool. I'm not a big fan of pay to play, pay to win, I guess is how they say
No,
it.
well, nobody is. If you
But
go pay to win, your game will die. The
you know,
internet is.
so
But
I guess I shouldn't rail too much about DLC because Micah's point in the chat is good that if the DLC is attached to a franchise as it's doing well and the game is delivering a good experience, then
yeah,
people are going to want to add to that
because
experience.
you can like, because I saw what Cuphead I loved, right? And then there came out with Cuphead DLC, and I was never like, oh, those greedy bastards, they cut off a second half of the game and they're trying to sell it to me. Because the first game Cuphead was great. It had a full story start to finish. But the problem is they'll put out these games that are clearly lacking, and then they'll sell you what would really round out the game into a full game separately. And it's pretty obvious, especially when they announce DLC before the game even comes out, that they just
Yeah,
separated it off as DLC, even though it
that's
should be part of
really
the game.
annoying. Yeah, DLC shouldn't show up for a while. Even if you've developed it, just hide the fact that you've already built it,
Because
so I don't have to hate you for doing it as a carve off from the original game.
I have to give a lot of respect to Sea of Thieves, which I think we were both very disappointed by. But they
Oh,
have put out 3 separate expansions with new types of missions, new dangers in the water, and they've all been free. And they're about to come out with another battle royale update, and they're coming out with new ships and new
Oh,
missions like
I
all the
wanted to
time.
like that game so much, and I think I might have even liked it if it was a little buggy to get in when it first launched, but we got in there and we were playing, and I guess I have to tell this story. Like, so we played for about an hour and a half, and I wasn't feeling very well, and so I had to get off the computer and go. And I walked into the living room, and I was like, "Oh, I feel really sick," and I had to lie down. I didn't throw up, but I was really nauseous, and I finally realized I was actually seasick from that game.
But that's
And
not a
and
detriment to the game. I feel like that
no,
should be a selling. That should be a seal of approval.
it was
That
a it
water
is
looks good.
it was immersive. It really was, and I would have been willing to brave that again if I had had any fun in the game. But the game, even when you went ashore to trade in the
Yeah,
stuff you
it
got,
was
it just
boring.
felt blah.
It got pretty boring after a couple hours. Like there was not
Yeah,
that much to do.
it
But they've
was. I mean,
added in a lot more water dangers. Like there's megalodons, giant sharks that will attack your boat. And there's boats full of
yeah.
you like they've created a lot of NPC threats that make it much more interesting to sell from island to island than it.
So, are you still playing Sea of Thieves actively?
No, I did pick it up a little while back, and I would play it again right now if I had somebody to play with, but I only jumped on because I saw they had an active Discord server, so I could jump on, get in with a group of people, see what they're doing, make friends on the Xbox. So it's a lot better than it used to be, and
Mhm.
I could do it, right? I could jump on and play all this new content that they've been updating the whole way through, and I think they deserve a lot of credit for that because they knew people were disappointed with the game, and they have been adding free stuff constantly
Yeah.
to to build it out into a game that people are not disappointed to pay $60.
Yeah, honestly, technically, I think the game was really sound. I mean, it was immersive enough to make me seasick sitting at my computer. So I think it delivered on that, you know, riding around on a sailboat at sea kind of experience. It just wasn't fun. I didn't really want to do it. I'm actually genuinely excited, and I hope I'm not overselling it to myself about playing the Division 2. I've got it installed and waiting to launch when we're
Yeah,
ready to try it.
I'm sure our second episode will have our first impressions. Of all got that set up for player co-op.
So I'm assuming, as in most games, you and Mike are planning to carry me to the finish line because
No, I'm
my
not that good
shooting.
at shooters either. Micah better carry both of us.
Mike, if you're out there listening to us, we're counting on you.
He's listening. He's saying right now, yeah, wow, I'm excited to play it too with my friends who also have the game downloaded. I think he's saying we could be playing it right now.
I mean, and he's making reasonably valid points
No,
because
I'm picking up what he's laying
we
down.
could be talking to one another on headsets like a couple of noobs, or we could be doing whatever it is we're
No,
supposed to be doing in Division
don't
2.
bash our podcast while we're podcasting.
Don't
Okay.
call myself a noob while I'm being a noob.
Yeah, don't you do it. All right. So I
Okay,
do
that's
want to
fair.
touch on the last topic here. We're coming up on like 45 minutes. Got a pretty link. The last thing to
Okay.
touch on would be I wanted to talk to you about what I know you probably don't have much knowledge about speedrunning in general. I don't think you have much interest in it. But
So what is uh, okay? I'm gonna say it. I don't know what it means.
okay, speedrunning is literally just people seeing who can complete a game in the fastest time. So they will record themselves playing, let's say, Super Mario 64, and they will say like, and they will post their time. I beat it in X number of hours, right?
Oh,
Or
okay.
X
So
minutes.
I thought you just meant like in games, like where you
Blowing
have an
through it.
alt key and you can run fast.
No,
And I'm
no,
like, what? Why are we talking about running fast in the Division 2 when I need to go slow and shoot somebody in the face? Right? I mean,
yeah,
is
okay.
that not family friendly? Did I
No,
go?
you're fine.
I
The
went left
shooting will
of
be
family
sweet.
friendly.
So I
Mhm.
never was interested in watching people play games really, because I would just like I'd rather play a game and watch like Netflix or something. Especially watching speed runs, because I felt like
Mhm.
speed runs made me feel like I was bad. Like I don't know, like or it felt like it broke the game to the point where I didn't like watching it. I was like, oh, I wanted to see how they would do the level, but all they did was do a backflip and clip through a wall and skip the entire level, right? Which would
Yeah.
not, which, but I've come to appreciate a lot more in that everything I watch on YouTube now is on 2 times speed. I don't have time for that these days. So I'm watching speedrunners on 2 times speed play through, like, let's say Banjo Tooie. I never got to play Banjo Tooie. I'm like, I wonder what Banjo Tooie's like. I'm gonna watch Awesome Games Done Quick, which is a big like charity stream they do every year. I'm gonna watch
Okay.
this guy play through Banjo Tooie. He goes through the whole game in 50 minutes, and he's got a whole couch full of commentators behind him that will talk me, the guy who doesn't know anything, through all the interesting like aspects of the game, about like how hard it is to do different mechanics, and then which levels are like what what glitches allow them to achieve what they're doing. And they even had an interview they called in with one of the original creators of Banjo Kazooie, who did the
Yeah.
music, I think, and they asked him, and he like talked them through the
Hmm.
different uh,
Well,
like things that happened over at Rare and why Banjo Kazooie never came to be. And I thought it was a really entertaining stream with all those things added together.
just but so it wasn't just the fact that he was playing at 2 times speed. It was also sort of all that anthology or
It was
the
the
sort of
commentary
sort of
really
the
helped me out a
bonus
lot.
content of it. It's almost like now we're watching a video game that's manifesting itself like a sporting event where you've got color
No,
commentators
definitely.
behind the guy playing.
Literally,
And
they have an entire crowd of people too that will like clap when he does an extremely difficult part well, or
well,
everybody
there
will
you
go like,
go.
oh, when he messes something up. So it does turn into a kind of a community.
So that, I mean, that's a different experience than just watching, because like even with the speed stuff, just watch him go fast.
But also, he says that's one of the good things about the GDQ events is the commentators, and that's definitely true. And you also get really funny donations from the people that are donating to whatever charitable event. But there's also like there will be retro games that I'm like, oh man, I remember this retro game right now, and I'm at work, so I can't like go talk to somebody like, hey, you remember this old video game, right? But
Okay.
and I'm like, how can I get through this feeling of like I really want to talk to somebody about this old game nobody's playing anymore, but there is somebody playing it. It's the speedrunning community is actually playing this game every day, so they
This
talk
retro
about it.
game every day.
Yeah, so they actually talk about it all the time about like let's say Banjo Kazooie. They talk about their favorite levels and their favorite funny parts in it and that kind of thing. So you can really go find like a streamer who really loves the game. That's why they're speedrunning it. And the whole time they're speedrunning for their stream, they'll be talking about maybe not even the game. Sometimes they'll be talking about whatever, just as they're practicing. But
Okay.
I've just found that as an interesting way to find old
Yeah,
games.
I can honestly say I have not seen any stream like that, but I do absolutely see the appeal. As I used to watch the League of Legends championship
Oh, the
games and
LCS.
LCS stuff, and then I'm every time I see Rocket League Championship Series on, I'm almost like unable to not click the button and watch like top shelf Rocket League players play. Not that I'm in any way a top shelf Rocket League player, but at least watching those guys, you get a sense of, okay, that's what the car is capable of doing. I'm just gonna make it do that if I can. Whereas when I was watching Fortnite streams of really good Fortnite players, it was like even I'm playing Fortnite, I'm having fun playing Fortnite, I'm lasting to like the top 10 and the top 5, and then a couple once or twice we actually won the game, and you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm getting better. And then you see what a good Fortnite player looks like, and you go, yeah, I'm never gonna do that. I'm
Definitely.
never ever gonna be a good Fortnite
I
player.
just want to point
Ever.
I just want to
Hmm.
point you to Micah's comment at dad. Anytime I want to watch Top Shelf Rocket League player, I just watch my replays.
I agree, Mike. I would watch your replays too. You are
don't
deity-like in your moves.
don't feed this man's ego. He's doing it on. But yeah, I
I,
will agree that Fortnite, I actually, you know how I told you I was watching everything on 2 times speed? I had to quit doing that for the time when I was interested in watching Fortnite streamers.
yeah,
Because when you watch
it's
how
too
fast they
fast.
build things at 2 times, I'm like, what's happening?
It's
Because they
too
really will
fast.
jump and spin and just click 3 times. Because they
Oh yeah.
practice just being able to do things in swift motions like that. So at two
I
times speed, I'm like, what did he even do? I actually did not see
I have
it.
to assume that what's happening there is they're running some type of macro or
They're
something
not.
to accomplish it. Are you sure? Because
They're not.
there
I'm
are
sure.
you
I've
can
seen
you
people
can get
practice and do video tutorials on
uh,
how to practice doing
there
those
may be,
things.
but I think you can get like a controller that would allow you to pre-program a macro into the controller that would send off a series of keystrokes very quickly. So that
Yeah.
you could have a controller that
No,
would
but
say, click this
most of
button and you're going to
these
get a wall with a ramp in it
most of
instantly.
these Fortnite streamers, you see like they have a camera on their hands to prove that they're not doing it,
And
so that
and
you can
and
see what they're doing to
I'm
copy it.
not saying that they aren't, but that's part of the reason why I'm never going to be good at Fortnite. A, I'm too slow. B, I'm not that accurate a shot. And C, when you add in something complicated to do while I'm shooting or getting shot at, I'm done. I'm out.
Mike, Micah says you're wrong. I assume in the macro end. Yeah, I don't think anybody's using macros. Fortnite did have a big cheating problem when it first came out, but
Well,
past
but
that.
the macros aren't in the software, they're in the controller. I know
Yeah.
that it exists because I've seen it before. I've
No,
never
I'm
seen
sure
anybody
it
use it.
can be done, but I know that no one. They have tournaments for the stuff, and the streamers all show their hands. I don't think anyone.
Yeah, I agree. The top shelf Fortnite players and probably most Fortnite players are just getting the key combinations down really fast. Um,
Because I could easily do wall ramp, wall ramp. Like me and Martha were actually practicing that for a while, trying to do that stuff when
yeah,
we thought we were gonna be okay. We were practicing different builds of ways to put up structures, but
you thought you were going to be okay, and then you got over it.
we
You got
were
past that
okay for a
thought.
while. But it just Fortnite gets old. Battle royales in general get.
Yeah, I mean, I like insta-give. I like instant gratification, but ultimately there was no real goal other than surviving. I thought Fortnite's mechanics were really good. It's got that sort of cartoony effect from like, my favorite World of Warcraft experience that I like to talk about, and it was cool for that, but yeah, it just got old.
That's why, yeah, and also I feel like the battle pass for a while the progression through the battle pass was enough for me. But if any game doesn't have progression, I'm probably not gonna play it. So like I will play Rocket League even though it doesn't have progression really, but like what I miss in shooters is you remember in Battlefield Heroes you would level up and you would get cool new abilities. And like you
Mhm,
wouldn't get new guns or new skins unless you paid, but you would level up to where your heal would be huge. It would heal like half your health if you put all your points into heal, and you have a satisfying progression of abilities. I think
mhm.
that is lacking in a lot of shooters.
Well, it's a talent tree kind of effect, right? It's that idea of, progression is definitely how you create stickiness in a game because
Yeah,
people they're doing goal-oriented gaming and that's but it also allows you to differentiate your character to be unique from everybody else that's playing the game, which is fun too.
that's what I'm saying about like Destiny. They had your couple different classes, but I feel like progression didn't feel very satisfying. You were just getting through
Oh, Destiny should have been good.
it.
But it
Well,
just and okay, what was really frustrating about Destiny is it was a good shooter
good
with a
shooter.
really shitty game. Excuse me, a really crappy game wrapped around it. Oh,
Yeah.
just so bad, so bad. I
So too
wanted it to
bad
not
and so bad.
be. uh, I shouldn't rail against Destiny. I had fun playing it briefly. I really thought it was a good shooter. I really liked the engine. I thought it loaded well and played well and all that, but it just, I don't know.
I think Micah is still playing Destiny, so I believe we're about to get the dissenting opinion. That's what kept me playing Destiny for so long, is that it is a base shooter. It like
Agree.
its
And
base
it's a
shooting
good
is good
shooter.
stuff. Yeah.
It's a good shooter. It really is. And I enjoyed Destiny 2 as a shooter quite a bit. I just thought the environments felt very like Ruby on like rails. It's just I'm
Yeah.
on the rail and I'm going down this path and I can't really choose my own destiny.
Micah says he hates pretty much everything about that game, but the shooting is so good.
I agree
That's
with
that's
Michael
what I thought as well.
100%.
I feel like the first level I played of Destiny, I'm like, this is gonna be good. Because I'm like, the shooting felt so good, and all the enemies were new, and all the cover mechanics are new, and all. But then, like by level 5, I'm like, oh no, still doing. It just didn't feel like it changed at all over there.
Yeah, at some point in the future, we'll have to talk about villains in games because if you're playing a game and you're not really invested in the in sort of getting the bad guy, you're either not liking the game or you're not liking the bad guy. I don't know which. But in Destiny, I definitely never felt invested in an adversarial relationship with any of the bad guys. They were just target practice more than anything.
Yeah.
So,
We're coming up to close to an hour here. Anything else to hit on?
uh, let me see. Um, no, I mean, I think we hit a lot of good topics for what we talked about. I don't have anything monumental to add at this point.
Okay. Well, this has been the first episode of Gaming for Soup. This has been Sam, the dad's internet, or the dad of the internet, JJ. Should we give ourselves our own titles now? You'll be JJ, the dad of the
Yeah.
internet.
I mean, if you're a father of something, you really should be happier with it. But I'm not sure if I feel
You're
like
not proud of the internet.
we're in those awkward teenage years of the internet while it still grows up into something cooler. But
Okay. So,
obviously it's grown up a lot. I don't
all
know.
right. Well, I'm Sam. This is JJ, and then we'll give shout out to Invisiturtle, our
Shout
only
out to
guy in the
Micah.
chat. Guest dissenting opinion. Says he disagrees. I don't know what he's disagreeing with because he's from the past. I think we are in the mid-20s of the internet.
That's probably fair. I would say so too. I'd
Eh,
say it's a young adult trying to decide what it's going to be when it hits middle age.
It's doing a lot of drugs and ruining its life. On that note, I'm
Bad
signing
internet.
off.